Kia ora koutou, welcome to this Friday Live. I've just got back from Auckland. Thankfully it's not a windy day today in Wellington, nice and still, so it was a lot less bumpy than the last couple of flights I've had back home. However, anybody that's travelling today from Auckland knows that the fog this morning has put everything back, so I'm a couple of hours later than I planned to be. I've missed my haircut, which as you can see I'm in much need of, so I need to rearrange that for my weekend, but just generally glad to be home, back in my comfy pants, and to be starting the weekend shortly. But first I wanted to jump on, do the week's live, because if I don't do it today there's a chance that it won't get done. And this topic I wanted to talk about today is one that keeps coming up. It's one that resonates with many of us. So comment below if you're a perfectionist, or if you're not, you're probably a recovering perfectionist. That tends to be true for a lot of, particularly the women that I speak to. I count myself in that group. I like to say recovering perfectionist, but sometimes I don't actually think I've recovered that well. I find myself jumping back into those habits. And that's what I want to talk about today, because my journey with perfectionism has kind of come 360. So I used to think that everything had to be perfect, and that if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't good enough. And that the only way I could achieve success was by getting things absolutely perfect. And that, of course, didn't just apply to my work that I was creating, but my life as a whole, the way I looked, everything. And of course, as we learn, normally the hard way, perfection isn't real. And a lot of the time when we compare ourselves to a version of perfection, we're using unrealistic comparators. So as an example, if I compare myself to an airbrushed photo in a magazine and that's how I want to look, I'm never going to look like that in real life because I can't airbrush myself. And similarly, if we look at other people's lives on social media and feel that we're falling short, or maybe we don't have as perfect a life as they seem to have, we're never going to have, because we only see half the story. We're seeing the good side of life. We're not seeing what is going on behind closed doors. So we therefore feel that our life is falling short in some way. But of course, with our life, we see the warts and all. With people's perfect persona of their sort of Facebook life, we only see the good bits, the bits they want to share. So a lot of the time we set ourselves up to fail when we aim for perfect, because what we compare ourselves to, or the version of perfection we're aspiring to be, is actually not achievable. It's unrealistic. And there's a real irony in that, because a lot of the time our drive for perfection is because of our fear of failure. You know, we want to go so far away from failing that we end up at perfection. And the irony is, of course, then we set ourselves up to fail a lot of the time with that. So this 360 journey has landed me right back at, you know, we're enough as we are without having to be perfect. And the closer to perfect we are, the less people will trust us, the less authentic we will appear. And that's something that Dame Jenny Shipley said at a conference I was at not long ago, a couple of weeks ago. And it's so true. You know, we're all on this quest to be perfect, but we're actually enough as we are. And by being human, we're never going to be perfect. We have our flaws. And if we learn to focus on the things that we're good at as opposed to the things that we're not, the things that we like about ourselves compared to the things that we don't, the things that we have in our life that are good compared to the things that are not, that's where we're happy, that's where we're authentic, that's where we are enough as we are, as opposed to striving for this unrealistic version of perfection. And there's a saying that I came across in my corporate world, which is sometimes done is better than perfect, and that can be so true. And I think when we suffer from perfectionism, we're always waiting for that little bit more, that tweak to make it perfect, that extra edit, additional redraft. And of course, when we do that, because we want to over-deliver as perfectionists, when we do that, we are aiming for 120%. when probably what is required is maybe around 80, and even 100 would be overachieving. But in a perfectionist's eyes, we don't see that. There's no middle ground. There's either success that lives out at 120% over-delivered, or failure. You know, even good enough is failure in a perfectionist's eyes. But when we look at all the work we do and the effort we put in over that 100% mark, the perfectionist's tendencies within us, the over-delivery, the extra effort, energy, time that takes, the closer to burnout we get. The other stuff that we're not doing when we're perfecting this particular thing, whether it be an area of our life, our work, the job that we're doing at the time, the likelihood is if we're spending time and effort there, we're not spending time and effort somewhere else. We only have so many hours in a day. And of course, when we're looking at what's expected and what needs to be delivered and an excellent job at 100%, that extra 20% is not necessary. And that's really hard for a perfectionist to get their head around. It's not about lowering the bar, I always say. It's about resetting it to a realistic level and understanding where that level is. So there's a few thoughts to leave you with on perfectionism, because I'm sure it'll resonate with quite a few of you out there. Certainly does for me, and it's something that comes up continuously, particularly when I do the imposter syndrome workshops and talks there. So what am I doing next week? I'm actually up in Auckland again on Tuesday, speaking to the Auckland Executive Club. So if you're coming along to that, I'm really looking forward to meeting you there. And generally just preparing for the event that's happening a week on Saturday. So on the 22nd of June, we have our second year of Women Supporting Women. We have an array of really cool speakers, really cool prizes, a few women in business coming to showcase their work as well. We have sold over 100 tickets now. There are not many left. It will sell out. In fact, I'll probably be marking it sold out by the end of the weekend. So if you haven't got your ticket yet, get in now, because after the weekend you probably won't be able to. We'll be at full capacity. So really looking forward to that event and doing the last minute preparations to get that so that it runs as close to perfect as I can get it. But yeah, just want to leave you with my thoughts on perfectionism really, and that is, stop trying to be perfect. Be just as you are and know that that is enough. Enjoy your weekend.